So everybody, today I have a very special guest. His name is Matt Tarczynski, and he is currently the CEO of Woodpecker, which is a software as a service platform for sending cold emails. It's being used by a bunch of B2B companies, mostly to generate leads, but also maybe to get some backlinks for SEO or any other kind of activity. So thank you very much, Matt, for being part of this. And maybe in the beginning, you can tell us more about Woodpecker and basically who you are. And then perhaps who are your ideal customers in Woodpecker? Who are the main segments that use Woodpecker, basically? Because I'm familiar with the tool. Many of the people that are listening are founders of SaaS companies or agencies. So definitely good audience.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the invitation. And as you said, Woodpecker is a software as a service platform to automate cold emails, but the main feature is automating the follow-ups. Mm-hmm. So because we see that there are generally IT companies that are using Woodpecker to automate follow-upping processes, and they follow up outbound flows, but also inbound leads, because it's not that easy to talk to the inbound lead when you contact the person only once. So that's why the follow-upping is a very important thing to do. And we have 2,500 customers now from 60 countries, and most of them are from states. And we're focused on small and medium businesses. And and I'm co-founder and CEO here, and we are a 4-year-old company.
Got it. And you mentioned like the most important customers are the IT companies. You mean that maybe other SaaS companies who are doing outreach, or because in IT, there's a lot of companies, there's agencies who do development. Yeah. So are these kind of customer cohorts different throughout IT, or how does that look?
Yeah. We see that we have very different users, but the power users are usually lead generation agencies that use Woodpecker to generate leads for their customers, but also software as a service companies that have higher prices and they have outbound processes inside. And automate them, but also software as a service companies that have a customer success teams, and they contact their customers, and for example for a feedback calls or something like this. We also have a lot of power users around let's say IT services like software houses or digital agencies, and also platforms like advertising platforms that are selling the advertising traffic and space. And these are our main, let's say, verticals that are using Woodpecker.
Got it. And so I'm just full disclosure, I have a lead gen agency. We use Woodpecker. We have multiple clients on Woodpecker, but we also used Mailshake, every other tool there is out there. So I had Sujan Patel here a few days ago. He was talking about Mailshake and Woodpecker. I know you guys are sort of competing against each other, maybe, I'm not sure. But I know his model is a bit different. They don't offer free trial, for example. You guys do that. And basically, you could maybe tell me, because there's so many of these tools out there nowadays, especially maybe 3 years ago, it wasn't like that. And right now, I can't really keep up with that. So like, how do you see the market within your space, specifically with these tools that automate emails or very similar kind of stuff, doing like Mixmax? You have all the other tools. What's the future for this segment? Do you see more of these SaaS tools emerging and then a few of them winning and taking over the market? Or do you see like just overcrowded marketplace after a while?
I think that the really good thing is that we all are growing together. Like we're building sales automation segment. We're not marketing automation tools. This is like a new category, and that's why, for example, I've met Sujan some time ago. We even have a picture, and I'm on his blog. So yeah, we are competitors, but we grow together and we build the market together.
Mm-hmm.
In long term, I think that the company will have to focus more on what they do, because I see that some of our competitors are trying to build a solution, this all-in-one solution, where you have a database and an outreach process and also a CRM functions. In my opinion, it's very difficult, and there are more and more players, and you have to be really good at something. So that's why, for example, our previous competitor, Litfuse, is now our partner, because they decided to focus on prospecting or delivering data. Mm-hmm. And we decided to focus on the following up process. Mm-hmm. And why we decided to integrate and work together. So in my opinion, there will be a bunch of really, well-built products that are very narrow focused and with good API, and people will use them. And of course, there also probably will be companies that will give all-in-one solution. In my opinion, it will be more and more difficult to build something that will do like everything of the sales process. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's oftentimes the dream for everybody, to have a platform that collects data, verifies them, and then even sends out emails, follows up, puts it in the CRM. Like,
yeah, it sounds good.
Yeah, it sounds good, but it's such a complicated world. And I know these companies, and really it's just being dominant in one category is so hard. And having this all in one, I know a few companies who tried from Poland, some of them, and it's so bad. It's like you can't be the best in all those things. So I don't know. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, exactly. This is my opinion, and something I think it's our strategy from day one to be doing this following up process. That's why we have less features usually than most of our competitors, but we try to be more stable, more maybe not more, but just be stable and reliable, and have the simple user flow. And of course, we have really big plans to add a lot of new things to the platform. For example, not only automating emails, but some other channels like Twitter or phone, maybe LinkedIn, if it will be possible to do this, legally using their API, and so on. And so I think that building a really good following up tool that will pretend the human and help the salesperson do a lot of this multi-channel following up tasks. It's very difficult, and adding the CRM functions or building databases, it's also very, very challenging and very difficult topics. So from my point of view, companies should decide where's the main focus and build the strategy and product around it. It's very difficult because very often we want to add a lot of things. It's much more easier to try to do everything. It's very challenging and difficult to say, okay, we will not do this. We will just focus on one thing.
Yeah, I mean, Sujan said the same thing. They actually tried that approach as their competitive advantage, because other tools are sometimes complex for salespeople. As a salesperson, you don't need to send emails. You don't need all these fancy other features sometimes, and kind of confuses them. And if you know that that's your target audience, I assume the winner in this category will be the one who merges LinkedIn with email, because that will be huge. If we can somehow merge those two platforms, I don't know how it's going to be done, but that's kind of the big milestone that I see somewhere. There are companies doing LinkedIn, but it's not how it's supposed to be done. So I don't know if you have any plans towards that, but it's kind of exciting for us.
Unfortunately, LinkedIn API is closed, so it's impossible to do something like this. But I think that it's not like that there will be only one company. I think that the market's really big and it's growing, and probably like there's no one tool for project management. There are a lot of for different user use cases, verticals, and I think that this is the future of the sales automation market too. I think it's even like in progress. For example, Outreach.io or Salesloft, they're focused on enterprise market,
Mm-hmm.
and we can see this. And some other tools like Matrix or ours, we're focused on a smaller, small medium companies, and so there are some. For example, at Woodpecker, we have a lot of lead generation agencies. We see that for them, we are quite a good fit. So I think that there is a place for many good tools that will have, let's say, some specific feature sets, or we support some flows for vertical markets or for smaller or bigger companies. And it's not that there will be only one big player there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, no, one company from Prague who has access to API of LinkedIn, they are building this thing where they connect CRMs to LinkedIn, so it's automated now, which hasn't been done so far. So maybe that's going to be like some MVP company, but it's up in the clouds. There's one thing for people who are listening who are not very who doesn't understand what are these guys talking about? I can just send emails from my CRM. Can you explain the difference between Woodpecker or the software tool built for B2B SaaS or B2B business outreach, and then, for example, MailChimp and maybe a CRM like HubSpot? So why should I use Woodpecker if I can just send on MailChimp or on HubSpot or something?
Sure, it's a really good question. This is why I think that we're building the new category, the sales automation, because very often people think that if it's an email, it means it's like marketing automation. For example, we at Woodpecker, we use MailChimp as our tool for newsletter. So, yeah. Woodpecker is an email client. It's not a sending engine. You send email, you connect your email to Woodpecker, and you can send human-like follow-ups without spending much time around it. So you can set up a campaign. You want to approach to let's say 100 prospects. You don't have to send first email manually and then wait for a response and then send, 80 first follow-ups to people who didn't respond to you, and then another one and another one. You could just set up a campaign, well targeted, and I hope to the good prospects and with context, and it is a bit of art to create a good copy and know how to target people. But still, you just set up a campaign, and Woodpecker will send the emails and follow-ups from your mailbox, like you send and do it manually, and it will detect if someone replies. If there is a reply, the sequence is stopped, and the software can detect if some other person from the same company decided to write to you, or there was a forward, like you forward the message to a friend, and all this edge cases where the system can detect that there is a reply and the sequence is stopped. But you can focus on you can be focused on talking to clients, making demos, going to meetings, and in the background there is a lot of following up job done. It's in a B2B sales, it's really difficult to sell something with one contact. I think it's almost impossible. We usually have to follow up. Even in private life now, it's not that easy to meet with a friend without exchanging few messages, and so this is why our users are using Woodpecker. And MailChimp, for example, is a tool for newsletters. When you have a big mailing list and you would like to send, product update, or maybe information about a new blog post to 20,000 people in one day, you should use MailChimp. If you want to contact like 20, 30 people a day, maybe 50, and with follow-ups, you should use the sales automation tool.
Yeah, and so cold email is not like email marketing, right? Many people don't get this wrong. I see this a lot in some Facebook groups everywhere. There's so many people asking these questions. I'm sick of it. It's not built for that, guys. But anyways, what do you think is kind of the future? Because as more of these tools show up, more of the email inboxes are of decision makers or whoever are being filled up by emails, right? That's kind of logical how the market goes. So what do you think is the future for email outreach when there might be multiple companies, but how effective is it going to be when everybody's going to have 500 emails in their inbox in sometime if you're a CTO of a company, especially a CTO of a company? So like, what's your opinion on that?
I think that outreach is more and more challenging, and we have to be more, let's say, sophisticated in what we do. The old school strategy, the spray and pray, like sending a lot of emails to random people, it's not the best what we can do. And I think that there always will be a need to, in B2B sales, when you have higher price, to talk to other person, to talk to each other, and there always will be a need to start a conversation when you try to sell something in the B2B space. And email is on one hand it's an old school channel, but on the other hand, when you look at the stats, it's still growing. Like in many countries, in many places, email is still growing. And I think some time ago I read a blog post where a MailChimp CEO said that he's listening that email is dying like 15 years already, or 10 or 15 years. Every year someone's saying that email is dying. It's not like it's not that easy to send an email to many people and receive answers. But if you understand who you are and who do you want to contact, if you know how to build a context, and if you know how to write a copy of an email, I think that there will be a lot of use cases and companies and salespeople that will be using emails for many years from now. But still, if not email, we can automate some other platform and some other channel that will work well. But I think that it will not be that easy, and it's not that fast to replace email at all. Like for many people, it's still the very important part of their daily job.
Yeah, I mean, to me, since we work with a bunch of companies, and even from Poland, right, I think the market has been damaged in recent 3-4 years. Almost every one of our clients has a very bad experience with cold email. Either they did it in-house or they hired some other agency who did it like spray and pray. And so like they don't believe, any of my clients don't trust me when I speak to them. But then I show them, I rewrite their emails in front of them, and they can see like, okay, this guy is something else. It's not just like spray and pray. And so I think that's the future, being more custom, being more thoughtful, understanding more about your customers, and really segmenting heavily. It requires a lot of job. It's not something you can automate, unfortunately, right now.
It's a homework you have to do before you start a campaign.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. So we usually have 30 days just for workshops with customers to kind of figure out where are the best use cases, where are the best case studies, like who's gonna read this email and be kind of moved to reply, because it's not gonna be everybody. And sometimes we find only like 30 companies, but if we get 10 replies, that's fine. So it's being even more custom. Even I think like just sending very small custom emails will be kind of the future. It being personalization in a way where you include a company name or a first name is not enough at this point. I think everybody can see that, especially if you're on the other end of the email, I can see if this is automated or not. And I don't care if it's automated. It's just that, is there anything custom to me?
Yeah, I know what you mean. But also I think that in outbound campaigns, not only good copy, not only good emails, not only good timing is important. But for example, if you have a really good brand and your target audience can recognize you when you use cold emails, it's much easier to start conversation than if you're just no-name company and try to contact someone. So it depends. If your website is not well done, the cold email campaign will not work great. If your website is really good and you can build a recorder, the user can see, good about page or stuff like this, the results might be different, and so on and so on. So it really depends, and it's a lot of work to do around the good cold email campaign. But I think that, and it's not easy, and it usually requires a lot of tests and so on. Mm-hmm. But when you find your good target and your message, mm-hmm. and other things, it's great to scale. It's a really great way to scale the mm-hmm. company business.
And I mean, as well, there are some logistical things where people just send thousands of emails per day. Like this is not what you're supposed to do, right?
Really
there's some basic like things you should know logistically, and then there's this whole thing about writing an email. And if you don't have a good website, we had clients who we tried with that and it didn't really work. You must have really good content assets, whether video, podcast, or anything, blog posts, because those will be really cool in follow-ups. You must have great results on case studies, which you can use in those emails. And I mean, you can experiment. I mean, we have clients who fly over to New York and they do face-to-face meetings. Like, that's fine. You don't need anything there because you're just saying, hey, I'm going to be stopping by your office for a coffee or something. And if you have recognition in the industry, it might be fine. What I see the biggest thing is testing, right? We test a lot, and there's no way in any of these programs to kind of figure out what's working. I mean, I see this thing, but if there's multiple segments we're testing, we have to put them somewhere in the spreadsheet to make sense of the data, like what's working. That's something, if that can be done in some software tool, which I don't know how, that would be huge, because right now we have to put it manually. All the sales reps are doing it. And it's a lot of manual work, right? But there's no other way to do this, because it's just this testing thing is tough. So maybe that can be the future as well. But you've mentioned that you don't think this is going to die. I don't think either. But what do you think about post-GDPR world? Because there was a lot of noise last year, especially around this time, about the end of cold email. And you guys had some webinar or something on that. And so what do you see right now in Woodpecker? Do you have more users or less users after GDPR? And what's your take on the whole thing in the EU outreach? Can you email somebody in the EU if you're doing outbound sales, or I don't know?
We have more users. I think probably because we, made like webinars and some marketing around this, that the software is ready for GDPR. You can encrypt data and so on, and delete data and some other stuff. And I think that, of course, it's quite easy to say that something will die, or that it will be so terrible. In my opinion, if you target cold emails in a good way, if you help the people who can have some value from contact from you. For example, if a company needs Java developers and you contact them and you have good Java developers, there is no need to be angry. They can say, okay, we don't need them now, or maybe contact us in a few days, or let's talk. Yes, we need them. And so if you do this in let's say in a good way, like you know who you contact, you should not be that afraid. And I think that in many cases, people think about cold emails, like, as you said, sending thousands of messages every day, and before GDPR and after GDPR, it's wrong. Like, it's not something that will work for you and for clients. And I think that it's something that it forces people to think in a quality way. You should not buy a email list of 100K emails and send them. And before GDPR, it is a bad practice. After GDPR, maybe it is you're risking more, but still it's a bad practice. If you are focused on quality, I think that in most European countries, you still can contact people in this way.
So, because I've heard, so is it legal then to cold email somebody, even if they are well researched and you kind of have an idea that these people might have a need that I can fulfill? Is that legal? Because there's this whole data protection thing where you shouldn't be storing their emails without consent that can identify the target. So what's your take on that part before emailing, storing data?
I'm not a lawyer, so I can just tell you my opinion, or maybe the knowledge I have. But as far as I know, if you have a database of let's say potential partners, business partners, and you want to contact them, you have a reason to have this database. If you have some random data that you don't need, it's something different. And GDPR tries to regulate how long do you have this data, and if there is any reason you have it. And so once again, if you target people with context, and there is a quality in the data you have, you even if someone asks you why do you have like 100 emails to these companies, and these are companies you can cooperate with, and there is a reason. Like, you don't have to keep this data for 3 years. You can have them for 1 month and send a sequence and some of them, and then delete data of companies that didn't respond or said please delete my data. And so from my point of view, it requires some additional actions to do, like not to keep all the data all the time and be focused on quality. And you still can cold email someone, because when you send a cold email, you're not processing data more. You have already this data in your database. So it all depends how good quality and how good context you have.
So something like including into your signature, like a clause where you say, hey, by the way, I'm processing your email data, found it on this website here. If you ask me, I'll delete them. Something like that can be like a PS line or something in the email.
Yeah, I think that's a good solution and good practice to do.
And so what's kind of, from your perspective, what's kind of your background? How did you get into the outreach space? Are you a technical person, or are you a CTO, or are you a business person?
Here is CTO, second co-founder, and I'm a business and marketing person here. Maybe a bit product, but like from the user experience perspective. And I'm like 10 or 13 years in this IT industry, and I used to bootstrap companies. Like it usually were service companies, B2B service companies, and it was a digital agency and software house. And when you bootstrap, you need to sell your product fast, and cold emails and outreach, it was my daily job. Something I used to do at the beginning of the company, and then some people inside company were doing this. And when I sold my previous company, I decided that I'd like to build not a service but a product company. And the software as a service model is something that is quite interesting and inspiring, and with really big potential to scale. And that's why we decided to build a software in this business model, and outreach was really close to me.
And so are you only focused on Woodpecker now, or do you have some other businesses?
This is my focus, because I used to be engaged in many projects at the same time, and in my opinion it will not work well in a long term, because we are growing really fast, and there are a lot of things that we have to do here inside. And so I try to focus on Woodpecker and help company to grow.
And so how many people work right now at Woodpecker?
50
people. 50. Oh, that's nice. And so how did you build a SaaS company when you don't have a tech background? Like you had this co-founder who was a CTO, and he developed the first prototype, or?
Yes. He has a CTO. He also developed the first product, and I also was involved in this space, like running for 5 years the software house. We making a lot of IT projects.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the story is quite funny because we started with a different idea of this vertical CRM. It was a bad idea, and we needed some to automate our outbound processes. And so the Maciek, co-founder, created the first version in let's say a week, and we started to use it for our own outbound in the previous project. And after some times, we realized, okay, what we have here is much more, powerful and have a bigger potential than our previous project. And we started to build a product and brand around this.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed you guys have a great blog. I mean, whoever's in charge of content is doing a great job. Maybe, I don't know if you have any videos. I know you have a YouTube channel or podcast, but that's I don't think you guys have a ton of videos. But blog, I know you guys have like blogs on every topic on email. So everybody who's struggling with email, just go read Woodpecker blog posts. And so one other question about this emailing. What's kind of your take on the biggest problem for these in terms of cold emailing when somebody starts with it? What do you think is like the biggest problem for them on day one when they decide they want to start a cold email campaign? Because I guess most of your users, I mean, they might be getting value from Woodpecker, definitely, but half of them maybe are not skilled to even cold email because they make these basic mistakes where they send thousands of emails or they use different domains or something. And then is there a way you can educate the market also on that? Because I know Mailchimp has an AI inside where it actually gives you like an advice on the copy and like what you should do. Is there a way how to do that? Because that essentially increases the success rate of your users, right? So I was just thinking about this.
Yeah, so as you said, this blog and content strategy, it's also very important from our point of view to help our customers, our users to build better campaigns and then create better results. So yeah, Kathy is a person who from the day one was building the blog. Now it's more people around it, and so we decided to create, some content around, maybe not inside the software now. And what I think is, yes, we see that the more experienced users that, they know how to make outbound and we just automate their processes, it's quite easy for them. And for people who start, they usually expect results very fast. And they very often don't think about, let's say, technical issues, like you should remember about SPFs or some other stuff like this, and you cannot send too many emails from the trash email box. You have to warm it up, and so on. And people who think that they can, make a shortcut, like buy a really big email list, and send a lot of emails. Like this is very common mistakes. But I think that there are a lot of users who are open to tests, and they understand, for example, the sales cycle, that getting a lead, it doesn't mean that you will have a client the same day. For example, it's just the start of the conversation, and the closure may be after 6 months. And this kind of users who are focused on quality, who understands their sales cycle, who understands their product and market, and they are persistent, and they are open to test many approaches. They have results. And people who think that they can make a shortcuts, they usually don't have results. So this is something try to say in blog and webinars. So these are our main channels to educate our customers and market. And so this is the message we send usually. Like this is not that easy, but if you will do it right, and if you will test some approaches, you can have results.
Yeah, I mean, I've been trying to educate some people for 2 years on my YouTube channel every day, and they still don't listen. But especially the agencies, they're the worst. Digital agencies or software houses, they just don't care, and this is the biggest problem, because what they have usually, if you're a services business and you're listening, you probably, most of your deals are coming from your network or from the people you know, because this is the nature of that business. And then when you start approaching a cold market, even if you generate a lead, that lead is not as equal to as somebody from your network who trusts you or something. So like they have zero experience converting cold to warm on closing those deals, and that's something I have to educate, because most of our clients are software houses, right? We have kind of focus on software houses only. We don't want to touch SaaS because they have their own sales teams usually, and so, but we have to educate them, like, guys, this will take 6 to 9 months to close. And for the sales process you have to follow, we have to teach them the whole discovery call, because it doesn't matter, we bring them lead, they don't know how to convert it. We have sales train and all that stuff. So yeah, it's super hard, it's not easy. You can get leads within like first 2 weeks of the campaign, but still it's not nothing.
Yeah, you know, you need some experience with talking to customers and you know, even know that it's a bad fit or a good fit, and so many other things that very often small companies or maybe software houses, the co-founders are you know, taking care of sales, and they have like hundreds of other tasks every day, and they're that persistent and you know, it's, I know what I mean. It's complex process very often, and so the more experienced the companies and the better they know their ideal clients, the better they know their sales cycle, the more experienced they are, and the better their offer is. The cold email results are, you know, better and faster. So I know what you mean.
I mean, just a free advice for whoever's running an agency: you guys have to pick a target, like, because most of them work with any kind of company, startup, enterprise, it doesn't matter. Just give us some project. It's like, it's going to kill you in a couple of years, this approach. And you also, your case studies are not aligned. And the whole approach we do is building those emails from case studies. So we have to interview their customers and get those numbers who are really interesting out. And that's what you put into email. And that's like, that's what I just said is super. Nobody does that. I can tell you, nobody does that. So especially if you're a software house, just talk to your customers, put up a case study, and then use those numbers to track a similar one. Not that hard, but not easy as well. And so, and maybe some light questions. I always ask people, like, when do you usually go to sleep, or when do you wake up in the morning?
I wake up around 7 a.m. And I usually go to sleep too late. Now, let's say I try to do this around you know, around midnight, let's say, sometimes 1 a.m. So I usually not have enough sleep, and this is not too good in the long term, but it's something I'm working on. So
yeah, I mean, you get 6 hours, so it's I can't live on 6 hours. I have to have 7 or 8, because I just am not productive then. I think actually that affects my life more than, like, if I have a good campaign on an email. Like, if I can't be like waken up, then I have a problem. And
I know what you mean. I usually understand this in the morning, but you know, in the evening when you read something or watch something or spend time, it's not that easy to go to sleep as fast as you should.
Yeah, especially if you speak with people who have who are building like 9-10 figure businesses. They all just say, like, sleep is super important. Like, just focus on sleep, focus on your like daily habits, because that's the only thing that separates then those people. And it's like, you hear that in the beginning, you're like, oh, that's not important. And then you realize after a few years, like, oh, that actually is important. So yeah. I mean, do you work from home, or do you have a physical office in Poland somewhere with Woodpecker?
we have a physical office here in Poland, in Wrocław, and all people work here in the office. I used to work from home for a few years some time ago, and I don't think it's a good idea in the long term, because it's very difficult to switch. You don't switch. You just feel like at work all the time. But still, when you do what you like, you don't work. I don't feel like I'm working a lot. That people say I am, but I don't feel like. So but I think that having an office, being able to talk to each other every day, and feel this energy with other people is very, very important. I think that it's possible to build a remote team, but it's much better to work together.
Yeah, I would say if you're building a product, then that makes sense. And services business, you can be remote. I mean, we are a remote agency. We have people in Prague, but we are all somewhere remote and have a co-working space. But of course, if we get bigger, then I would probably get an office. But it was just my opinion. Do you have any favorite kind of entrepreneur that you follow, or somebody who in business who you kind of respect and try to follow?
I really like guys from Basecamp because I think that they try to teach us all that it's not that easy, and it takes some time, and you don't have to grow that fast, and not everything have to be crazy, and so on. So I really like them. I usually read a lot of blogs and from many people from the industry. So I cannot give you a more exact people, but people who really inspire me, these are usually people who are not on the first pages of the magazines. These are usually people who run good companies, and they are not spending much times in this, let's say, startup events and places like this. And I really like this kind of approach where you build a company, not like I call this a CEO centric, where you're very public person, but rather you brand, you build a good company, and you don't have to be in front of let's say camera or the social media.
Like have a daily vlog or something. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg doesn't post daily on YouTube, so I guess that's true.
In my opinion, there's nothing bad in this. If you feel like doing this and you feel good creating content, like for example Gary Vaynerchuk, so everybody knows him, and he's like natural social media animal, and it's cool. But doing this, if you don't feel this kind of approach, in my opinion, it's not a good way.
I mean, it's also, he has a social media agency. Makes sense that he's doing that, exactly. Right? So it does depends on the kind of business you have. Do you guys have integration with Basecamp or anything?
No, we don't have any integration with this project management tools. We use Basecamp for our internal projects, some of them.
Got it. And if you read, what's kind of the latest book you would recommend to everybody, not just in business, but in general? Have you read anything in the past few weeks or?
I usually read like 5, 7, or 8 books in the same time, and usually some of them are audiobooks, some of them are ebooks, and some of them old school books. And maybe not late. I read it some time ago, but I think it's so important book in our industry. It's The Crossing the Chasm. I don't know if you've heard about it.
Heard about it, yeah.
Yeah, it's really important one. It's not very easy to read, but it really can open mind, let's say. And from maybe not the business but personal books, I really liked Road Less Traveled. I don't remember the author. It's more about, let's say, the approach to life, but it's quite inspiring. The Road Less Traveled. And I really like the book Road. This is Cormac McCarthy. It's an American writer, and there was a film based on this book, but the book is like brilliant. So yeah,
It's spelled a rogue or
road, like
road. Okay,
like, when you go with your car.
got it. Okay, great. So, and do you have any favorite app online that you use often every day that not many people know about?
Good question. We have like 50 or 60 SaaS tools inside Woodpecker, and so a lot of them. But
I think like Zapier is perfect. Like I love Zapier. So just because it's like saves so much time. So that's just for me. So anything like that?
yeah, I know. I use Fantastical.
Fantastical. Haven't heard
Yes,
about that.
it's an iPhone app. It's like a calendar where you can type in just like meeting tomorrow at 8 a.m. and it creates a task or a meeting inside the Google Calendar. So it's like this setting up something inside your calendar is so easy. You can just write it, like writing down the notes, and he understands it. So it's save time really well. And I'm addicted to this Fantastical. It's an iPhone app, but also a Mac version. So I have on all my devices.
Got it. That's perfect. So thank you very much, Matt, for being so generous with your time. I know you're busy, but yeah, so everybody who's listening, this was Matt. He's the CEO of Woodpecker. So if you want to try out Cold Email, there's free trial. You can sign up and try it out. And definitely Cold Email, you probably learned something today, hopefully. If not, then leave us a comment or something and I'll respond back. So thank you, Matt, for stopping by, and yeah, let's be in touch.
For the invitation. Thank
All
you.
right, perfect. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.